You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back. Sorry. Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Here we are again, here today doing a Saturday night shoot the breeze episode. I see we already got some folks in the chat room. Daily Affirmations by Pauline just jumped in, saying good evening. Black Excellence says I am here. NYC Sports Archive says yes, sir. Kevin Care says reporting for duty, sir. Appreciate it. NYC Beauty says all hands on deck. All right. I want to thank you guys for being here. I look forward to these Saturday night conversations. And you guys are the ones who really made it something worth the while. Daily Affirmations by Pauline. I haven't gotten the t-shirts back from the printer yet. As soon as I do, I'll ship that out to you. As a matter of fact, I'm going to order a bunch of them coming up so that the process of doing the t-shirt giveaways during the Saturday night shoot the breeze is much smoother. All right, so just hang in there. You'll get the t-shirt soon, and I look forward to seeing you take a picture in the shirt, so everyone can see it. Also want to thank those of you who donated to the Cash App this past week. I had a few donors, and I really appreciate that. We're getting close to, this small goal that I have of getting the show back on, different podcasting apps like Apple Music and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. So we're almost there. We're almost at the point where we could get the show back on there for like another year. And I thank you guys who donated. I never know if folks want to be called out by name who donated. So I just give a general, thank you to those who donated this past week. If you want to donate, it's right there on the screen. Cash App, $bitter, MEDZ. Bitter, MEDZ, so you guys can, just chip in a little something. We're just trying to get the podcast and the platform, to bigger and better places. Revolutionary Matron is here. Greetings to you, brother. I was just gonna call your name. You and another listener joined the Discord this week and subscribed. I appreciate you guys subscribing. I appreciate you joining the Discord. By all means, whenever you are on the Discord, let us know what what it is you want to get involved in. Do you want to get involved in creating this new curriculum? Do you want to just get involved in discussing topics that are going on around us in the world today? Or do you want to get involved in helping the podcast grow by helping us share the information, by helping us getting and attracting folks worthy of being interviewed? So let us know whenever you hop in the Discord. Let us know what it is you want to really do. Life with Nelly is in the room saying good evening. Right, Revolutionary Matron, is it Matron or Matron? Says I say, yeah. So it's Matron. Sorry, Revolutionary Matron is I guess a sister who's in the Discord now and is following the podcast. I appreciate you. I apologize for saying Matron. I thought For some reason, it didn't cross my mind. You know, maybe it's matron. Dorico Cooper Photography is here. Peace to Dorico Cooper Photography. Once again, before we get into the schmoozing, into the, you know, hopefully you guys have some libations you want to pour out. some, you know, whatever it is you're into, the burning bush, right? You want to pour out some libations, whatever it is. I hope you guys have it. Before we get into the discussions, because I want to say also, a lot of you really chipped in for tonight's discussion by offering topics that we could talk about. I want to really thank you guys for that. When you go on the Discord, you're going to notice when you scroll down to the podcast, to where the podcast, you know, has its space, podcast episodes. I just added, under the announcements, I just added the Shoot the Breeze topics channel. So what you guys could do is you can use that channel from now on and just go right in there, post the Shoot the Breeze topics. This way I don't have to look around the Discord while on air or just before I'm on air to find the topics. Again, I appreciate you guys still for all the topics you sent in. Before we get to any of them, I have to remind you, this show is a part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows you should be tuning into. There's other shows I advise you to tune into. For example,
this is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Make sure you guys also check out the Queen's Council podcast here on KWAZ Radio. So I got through everything. I pronounced Revolutionary Matron's name properly. I apologize again. Big up to everyone who's here. Let me start pulling these topics out now. You know, I had it lined up and then I did something just now and just threw it off. First topics we're going to get to are from Kevin Care 42. Right? The first one is about these mofos here. Let me post it in the chat room so you guys can see it. And this way you guys can also chip in with your commentary. And you know, of course, any comments you make in the chat room, I will read them off live on air. The first comment is non-white groups begging black people for help but wanting to spit in our faces. For example, the Asians and the Arabs. You know, and this is going to come up later from someone else who posted some topics. As you guys could surmise from being listeners to the show, you know, I don't really care about non-white groups. So their begging falls on deaf ears with me. You know, they're begging us for whatever falls on deaf ears to me. They're begging that they're suffering. You know, this is going to come up later with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's ongoing. That kind of revved up again, you know, this past week. I don't even, you know, I see a lot of black folks checking for Palestinians and all this. I don't even check for that. You understand? I don't even check for them folks, because you bring a Palestinian around me, my folks in my area, they'll call us a nigga with no problems. And they'll join in with these Israelis in Brooklyn, right? And just plot to make money off of us and don't give a shit about us, don't even respect us, right? Recently there was a Muslim holiday. I want to say it was Ramadan. Could be wrong. where all the corner stores in Brooklyn, you guys live in different places. Let me know if it was like that by you. This just goes to show the penetration that Arabs and Asians have in the black community and black economics. When I was coming home, all the stores, all the corner stores, or bodegas, like you'll hear people call them in parts of New York, all those stores were closed. Right? All those stores were closed. And what's funny, all those stores that are closed, routinely I see some ooish, and you guys know what the ooish is, right? Starts with a J and with a oo. Those ooish dudes are the ones who are actually selling them the goods that they sell to us in the neighborhood, right? They do business together. Don't mind all that Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Israel anti-Arab conflict. They do business together out here. They make money out here together, right? So a Palestinian will come right out here, make money with some Israeli, right, and call me a nigga in the process. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. Dorico Cool Photography says they need to be paying reparations too. I think he's referring to the Asians and the Arabs. Dorico says they enslaved Africans before Yoruba. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kevin Carefoy too says, remember, it was a Palestinian store that George Floyd got killed, but he says but in front of. Right? I didn't realize those guys were Palestinians in particular. I think I did know they were Arab. Right? So I'm supposed to feel bad about them fellas catching their ass out there? Revolutionary Matron says something very true. These folks are brothers, quote unquote brothers, against the black folks. These folks understand when the black dude walks into the room, who to lock arms with. They ain't worrying about that Arab Israeli shit no more. That PLO, they don't care when we walk in the room, and we got to have that in our mindset. Daily Affirmations also didn't know that it was owned by Palestinians. The store that George Floyd had the problem, right? Kevin Carefoy too, just to go back, says it's really funny, but 20 years ago, under Ariel Sharon, was the same thing happening. I have my own problems. They need to hold their own falafel and egg rolls. Yeah, hold your own stuff. You understand? When y'all out here, beating black folks in your Asian nail stores and all that shit, and then you turn around and talk about stop the anti-Asian hate, and then claim it's also doing it to you, when we see numerous videos where y'all cutting ass inside these stores. Nah, I'm good. Right? I'm good. Kevin Care also adds that Eric Garner and Alton Sterling, if I'm not mistaken, were both of them selling cigarettes? No. I think Alton Sterling was selling CDs or something in front of a store. And Eric Garner, they claim, was selling loose cigarettes. I want to ask you guys a question about the Eric Garner case real quick. In all that video stuff where they killed that man out there, did y'all see one loose cigarette hit the floor? Did y'all see a loose cigarette or a cigarette of any kind? A cigarette pack, whatever. Did y'all see, or cigarettes? Did y'all see any of that in the video? I really challenge anyone to tell me if they saw any loose cigarettes in those videos. But yeah, that's my take. The take is my added take is that these groups, the Asians and the Arabs, they know that black folks are, as a group, are kind of cowardly, kind of punctified now, kind of weak. And they know that there's a bunch of black folks, like you see right now going on with Palestine, who will get on this whole Palestinian suffering thing. Right? It's at the point now, black folks put aside their own suffering to hold up the suffering of others. Right? Kevin K42 says Andrew Yang was getting called out about supporting his Rahel. Oh, Israel. Okay. He flip-flopped. Yeah, I mean, and we gotta watch this thing too. This thing, the people that you can't criticize, I forgot who said this, but the people who you can't criticize are usually the people who you're enslaved to. A slave couldn't criticize the quote unquote the so-called master. He might do it. He'll lose his life for it, or feel a heavy hand for it. So we gotta understand who is really controlling all this stuff out here. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not anti-Shemite or whatever the hell it is. It's none of that stuff. It's facts we're talking about. You go through history and you look at the history of the Uish. You'll kind of understand why some folks feel a certain way towards them. Remember, they were banned from all sorts of European countries, right? They were banned, right? But these are the folks who think themselves chosen. Yes, daily affirmation by Pauline Punctify, right? But these are the folks who are playing the games with our lives, right? These are the folks who are playing the games with our lives. Revolutionary Matron says, we too busy trying to build a relationship with others with no unity with each other. How are you going to go to another man trying to get in on his shit and your shit ain't together? Dorigo Cooper Photography says, I never saw a single cigarette. Besides, them Arabs always selling singles. They pay no taxes to the community that they operate in either. Do the Koreans, nail shops, or the dry cleaners, etc. Absolutely. And Revolutionary Matron had made a comment, like, similar comment. She says, no, I don't give a fuck if I did, in brackets, see a cigarette or see Lucy's. His life was worth more. Absolutely, his life was worth more. Absolutely. I'm not. I hope I didn't come across like I was making his life secondary, right? But I am saying that not once in the video did I see a loose cigarette, and for some reason, no one brings that up. No one brings up, well, where's the loose cigarettes from the crime scene? Let me tell y'all something. If something like that happened to me, I would hope you guys would say, well, hold on. Where's the cigarettes you see? These illegal loose cigarettes you're claiming that he was selling? I don't see nothing out here. But of course, we let that one pass. We let that one pass, and no one called that, to my memory or knowledge, no one called that out. Right? Kevin Care42 says these groups, when you do not want to support them, try to shame you. Fuck them. Yeah, fuck them. He says, I would rather stand on my two legs and bend than beg on my knees. Apparently Kevin Care42 says Sean Bell, if you remember some years ago, Sean Bell was supposed to get married the next day and got stopped right here in Brooklyn. I think that was Avenue L in Brooklyn, in Canarsie. And, they unfortunately lit him up and killed him. And apparently it was an Arab who did that too. Maybe I should start using more codes for these people. I don't want to make it easy for the Uish and the Arabic to mess with my channel, but let me pull up the next topic from Kevin Care. This is gonna be an interesting one too. I'll post it in the chat room right there. It says, making our own Black 300. And by that Black 300, it means supporting and advertising each other's businesses. I've heard Tariq Nasheed use that term, the 300, right? Referencing the movie 300, where was it the Spartans who went up against the Greek with 300 of them, and they did damage, right? The reality of it is 300 would be cool if the Discord that we have could get 300 folks on it, and who are participant, who are seeking out opportunities, seeking out the knowledge that's there, seeking out teaming up to create stuff and whatnot. I would love it. But let's start with 10 people. And by 10 people, I'm saying let each person get their 10 people, right? And again, we, each group of 10 or whatever would work on, unity and interconnectedness, but also more largely, they'll be working towards the 3 markets that I talked about at the beginning of the year, right? Health, wealth, and relationships, right? But if we could do that, right, in whatever number, there'll be so much success amongst our people, it wouldn't be funny. I think I mentioned this on the show. It definitely was a conversation I had briefly on Twitter. But a young lady was saying something like, if I was a Black business owner, I wouldn't advertise it as a Black business. In fact, she said I would never advertise it as a Black business. And I said, this is the thinking that's problematic. Media, let's speak about it specifically. Black media, right, only comes about and can only be sustained if we had more Black businesses advertising on Black media. So what a lot of folks don't understand, it's the media that determines, to some extent, the content of the shows and stuff that's on TV. And if not directly the content, is there dollars that will dictate to the channels which shows to keep and which not to keep based on the money. And it's the same thing with Black society. Now, the thing about that is you wouldn't want white businesses advertising on Black media channels. For example, what would I look like sitting up here and Bill Gates is advertising on my show? But if we could get Black folks to have some pride about themselves and not fear, backlash from the other side, right? We could get Black folks to fully promote their businesses, brick and mortar, online, what have you, right? Fully promote their shows to the people that they really want to engage with anyway. But that's our problem. We're too afraid to say, hey, I'm Black and I'm putting my money behind Blackness. Speaking of which, if you know anyone who is selling Black cultural apparel, who wants to advertise to the conscious community, by all means, send them my way. I always get hit up on Instagram about this, but I never know if it's some spam bots. I never reply. Right? In the chat room, Dorico Cooper Photography says the abs, you know what the abs are. The abs sell every out of them corner stores, from guns to crack, with no penalties. Everything. Right? Kevin Kerr says that's the truth. Revolutionary Matron says society and community builds the unity. I agree. What also builds the unity even before that, though, or intertwined in what you said, Revolutionary Matron, is the education, right? Revolutionary Matron, you're new here, but there's a project that I have ongoing on the Discord towards creating a new African-centered and Pan-African-centered curriculum, right? A new Pan-African-centered curriculum. If you think you can help with that endeavor, by all means DM me and we'll go from there. You know, God, that's something I really want to get back on track with, like real heavy. And this is why, you know, I've said it a few times before, this is why I like having artists around, be it musicians, photographers, painters, drawers, whatever type of art it is, right? Writing poems, etc. We need folks like you guys around too, because when we start talking curriculum, we start talking presentation of information via textbook or workbook or something of that nature that should accompany, by the way, a curriculum. We need you guys, the artists, to help with the presentation of the information, to help with the pictures that go in between the words, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. We need folks like y'all helping. So I hope you guys will take up that call to action and actually help with this endeavor. KW Don 7 is in the room. He says the international ooze, the world's foremost problem by Henry Ford, articulates what the small hats are about. Right? So that's something to check out, actually. Kevin K42 says, check out Tony Martin, the Ooish Onslaught. Cooper Photography says, the Abs, and you know who the Abs are always selling that expired ish to our people with no penalties. Spoiled meat too. Kevin K42 says, if we do not get and keep our own media, we are done. Yeah, the media is a transfer of information. One of the things I'll add to that, Kevin K 42, that we got to understand too, we have to develop our own pipelines for delivering our media, because let's be real about it. I've talked about the Abs and the Ooish in this episode alone, right? A dozen or so times, or more times, right? The reality is, ScrewTube can come and take down my channel, right? The reality is that these folks could come and cut the internet to us, right? Or throttle it down, or whatever it is, right? So we need to work on building black media as we are doing now, right? You guys make sure follow KWAZ Radio YouTube channel, right? That's the hub for all these different podcasts that you hear from KWAZ Radio. So you should be subscribed to the hub. But the reality is, they could shut that hub. They could shut that down. They could shut down the internet. They could shut down, the channel. We also gotta really start figuring out how to be good if these folks decided to start cutting down our access to things. Like, for example, if they cut our access to clean water, us specifically, to clean water, what are we going to do? If they cut our accessibility to medicine, food, information, etc., what are we going to do? We really got to start thinking about that too. Like, we got to start thinking about how are we going to create a high-speed technology that can get information to everyone, right, in moments, a few seconds. Rico Cooper Photography said facts. KW Don 7 says the protocols of the learned elders of Zion is another good resource. Okay, check that out too, guys. Let's see if we can find it on PDF format and put it up on the Discord. Kevin Care 42 says every other groups can have their own media, but with us, you're being divisive. Revolutionary Matron says there is a Rod Sterling interview that talks about getting marketing for the Twilight Zone and different themes he could not get support. Dorico Cooper Photography says everything. Kevin Care 42 says I was working with this Muzungu modeling agency. I had to leave. They are slave drivers, right? NYC Beauty says I put books out, photos that show black people in a wonderful light. I do not care about outsiders' criticisms. F them. Revolutionary Matron says the Abs also disrespect our women and prey on our children and have been doing it since the 1980s. I would say they've been doing it longer than that. Right? Yeah. Rico says, I got you on the photos to illustrate the textbooks. I can also help with layout and typography. I am decent with Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. You see, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Dorico, this is like the second or third time Dorico has outlined what he can do and what he can contribute. And Dorico, I'm going to really talk to you soon about this stuff because with the semester winding down now, I'm going to have more time in the summertime to put specifically towards this curriculum stuff. And remember, it's a Pan-African curriculum, so it's not, of course we'll build it closer to us for now, and then we'll incorporate the Pan-African aspect perhaps a little bit later, but it's a lot of work, and we need hands on deck. We need people to, bring skill, but really bring desire, Kevin Care says a lot of us are not going to make it. When I was a kid, I always read and researched things. I would present my research to friends and other adults, only to be laughed at. As an adult, same thing. Draco Cooper mentions Dr. Obadeli, who I had on the show before. I think he was referring to Obadeli Cambone, who I had on the show in the past. Kevin Care 42 says the Abs are getting their just desserts, and I do not care. Kevin Care 42 says I can help you with Final Cut Pro. Okay, cool. This is the kind of stuff we need to know. And again, you don't have to have these exquisite, exquisite, so to speak, skills. It's if you have the desire, that goes a long way, right? To continue with another topic. Actually, yeah, I should have kind of had this in the other one, but I'll bring it back here too. It's important not to miss this point from Kevin Care 42. He says, hold on, let me post it in the chat. Okay, that question was too long for them, I guess. Hold on. So you're gonna see I posted two parts of the question. Kevin Care 42 says the new black media is causing headaches for politicians and the lamestream media. People wanting more pay to go back to work, intellectual property, and keeping it in the black family, investing in the new black media, etc. So yeah, so that that goes with the original point. If you're gonna put money up for anything, put it into the voices that are disseminating information. Put it into the voices that are disseminating information, and make sure to vet the voices. Make sure that they're talking about stuff that really makes sense and has an impact on our society. Not just any old random person. You feel me? All right, vet them first and put some dough behind them. All right. So now I can, if you guys want to add something to that, just add it in the chat and I'll catch it when I come back. All right, now I'm going to go look for the other ones that was given to me. Okay, let's go to Dorico Cooper Photography. These are some interesting ones. Some of which I can't find any information for, but I guess that's the point, right? I guess the point is I can't find information for some of this stuff. So the first thing from Derico Cooper is thousands were found dead in shopping containers along with weapons of mass destruction by U.S. Navy SEALs. The containers were owned by Walmart and Wayfair, linked to a pedophile ring with Clinton Foundation. How many of you had heard this information before? Again, some of the stuff from Derico for today's Shoot the Breeze I couldn't find info for, but again, based on these topics, you're not going to find information so readily like that, right? While you guys answer to that prompt or respond to that prompt, let me just read some of the comments that were put down. Derico Cooper says, I got a 4K drone and underwater cameras and a couple DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. Right? Kevin Kerr says, to Derico Photography, with our resources and skills combined, we are a powerful force. Derico says, yes, indeed, so do I. And then Derico Cooper Photography says, yeah, they're trying to keep that under wraps. Well, I imagine so. Did anyone else hear about the thousands found dead in a shopping container owned by Walmart and Wayfair, linked to a pedophile ring? KW Don 7 says no, he hasn't heard about it. That's crazy, right? It's crazy to imagine. To me, it's crazy to imagine walking in a place and seeing a dozen people dead. Well, when you tell me thousands are found, that's wild to me, right? Daily Affirmations asked a good follow-up question. She said, I had never heard of the dead in shopping containers. What was the cause of their deaths? Yeah, well, were they just gassed or shot up? You know, that's a good question. While you guys discuss that, let me quickly grab the next prompt from here. And the next prompt Derico Cooper Photography says they died from the heat in the Egyptian desert. Wow, that's kind of wild. They were tied to a pedophile ring. Yeah, that's wild. Which a lot of our children, black children, go missing, you know, every day. No one really talks about it that much. There was a moment where people were talking about the missing black girls like maybe 2 years ago, and that went away, right? But, you know, wow. The next thing from Derico Cooper Photography was Amazon shopper ordered a thumb drive and found an open package with a thumb drive filled with files of kidnapped children held by CYM Corps using children for adrenochrome, right? Adrenochrome is a chemical compound produced by oxidation of adrenaline. So it seems like they are getting them for this compound associated with adrenaline. Derico, what do you think this compound is really being used for? Is this some soldier program? What do you think it's really being used for? Wo Tati. Welcome, Wo Tati. I don't think I've seen you here before. Is this your first time here? I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen you before. Is this your first time here? Oh, okay. So Derico Cooper Photography kind of fleshed out what was going on here. So you guys remember there was this ship that was like stuck sideways or something in the Suez Canal, and it was like a big deal for a little while. Rico's saying that ship on that ship had the container where these folks all died, as Woe Toddy put it, where they cooked in the box. And Rico's saying that this adrenochrome is a youth elixir for Yoruba. Is this adrenochrome, is it necessary for it to be from a certain type of child, a certain race of child? Or is it just any child will do? And I hate to say it like that, but you guys know what I mean, right? You know, it's wild to think of all the craziness that goes on that I guess you and I listening to this would never think about. Like, it's wild to think there's some folks out here cannibalizing missing folks, picking up folks on the side of a highway or something like that in some of these backwater towns in the States or wherever around the world, right? And, you know, you're taking them home and just doing them bad and eating them and all. It's just crazy to think all of that stuff happens. And it's not only in the backwoods parts too. Let me correct myself. There's some folks right here in New York City doing the same shit too. So, Woe Toddy says they're here for the first time. Well, welcome, Woe Toddy. Woe Toddy, if you're interested in working with the podcast or working on the podcast project, up at the top there's a pinned comment where you could join our Discord server and you could let us know how you like to help. If it's just to check out the podcast, just to commune with the people, work on the project, what have you, you can let us know. But make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, right, and the bell to be notified when I'm on again. Revolutionary Matron says, I feel like it's a half-truth. We know that you can evoke power with blood sacrifice. I think they're trying to maintain power with blood sacrifice. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about that for a second. Can you really evoke power with blood sacrifices? Wouldn't we be powerful people had that been the case? Or I should term it another way. You mean to tell me we could just go carry out some blood sacrifices, like blood sacrificing some white supremacists, for example? Or we could get power that way? In the meantime, while I get an answer on that, Kevin Carefoy too says our minds are being blitzed by media and social media. Causes you to have a short-term memory. That's my problem these days too. You know, as I'm getting older, dealing with the social media and stuff especially is messing with my memory. Daily Affirmations by Pauline is like myself. She said these happenings are like science fiction. Unbelievable, but you have to believe it because it's happening. It's happening. I remember years ago I read a story where these white folks, this woman was, I think she had grandchildren when they found her. She was hidden behind a wall in an apartment. I think that was in New York too, in Queens. Hidden behind a wall in an apartment. The father was raping her for like 30 years. Fathered children and grandchildren, I believe, with his daughter. And that shit really happened. Woe Toddy says, I'm a barber, so I can make you look good. Okay, shout out to Woe Toddy. But even being a barber, you know, honestly, there's parts of that can play into curriculum. By the way, Woe Toddy, if you have a store, I hope you play the podcast in your shop. right? Dorico Cooper says is also used for sex trade and organ harvesting. He said 1,400 to 1,900 plus per milligram, depending on the grade. A plus plus, A plus, A, B plus, B minus. Wow. You know, it's wild. You know, let me grab the next comment from Dorico on the Discord. Again, you guys are welcome to join the Discord. Just click the link pinned at the top of the chat and or down in the description. Join the Discord today. Let's get to work. Let's get to building a community and starting to get organized, right? Revolutionary Matron says they really believe that's how it works because they cannot quantify our existence any other way. Okay. Dorico Cooper says a minimum order of 1,000 milligrams for A plus plus and 2,500 milligrams minimum for B minus grade. So the higher the grade, actually not even the higher the grade, certain grades just are just more expensive than others. Right? Kevin Care42 says, right now I am burnt out by the media. You just become apathetic. I get it. All right. So let's go to the next topic from Dorico Cooper on the Discord. He says, leaked Army documents stating that COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccines are Chinese bioweapons. The government knew it. Anthony Fauci helped create the disease, and they want us all infected. I have heard this hypothesis before, right? I heard this hypothesis before, and one of the things that kind of supports the hypothesis is that China was reluctant to allow foreign experts into the country to do an independent probe, right? And what they did was they stalled the entry of international experts for months, right? They used stall tactics to prevent them from coming in there into Wuhan, right, where this thing started. This is why Trump aptly called it the China virus, right? Whether you like Trump or not, he's right. Because listen, you let some shit come out of the West Nile and see if they don't call it, which they did, by the way. See if they don't call it the West Nile virus. You let something come out of sub-Saharan Africa and see if they don't give you some African name attached to it, right? So that hypothesis, I'm not going to treat that like a conspiracy theory whatsoever. And I think a lot of the Stop the Asian Hate stuff is to hide this fact. I think the Stop the Asian Hate thing was a way to kind of combat the fact that Trump rightly called this shit out for you know, originating in China. Right? He could have called the Wuhan virus too. He rightly called that out. And I think this hypothesis that it was a bio weapon, I think there's some truth to this stuff. I think there's truth to that. And now the part where you say that Fauci knew, helped create it, that's an interesting take. But my question is, why do they want us all infected? Because I'll tell y'all something, just my personal belief, I think we've all been infected, or at least we've all come into contact with it. Whether it infected or not could be debated, but I personally think we all probably have been infected, and some of us just couldn't take, you know, in terms of the body, right? Some of us just couldn't take it more than others. Like a lot of older folks couldn't take it and succumb to it. You know, there's young folks who died from it too. Maybe they didn't have the makeup to resist it. You know, but I feel it's a kind of a Walking Dead type scenario. Everyone has the virus, right? KW7 says the word on the street is that Melinda Gates had been planning on divorcing Bill back in 2019 due to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I heard that too, and I heard that too. The one thing I would say about white women, they tend to stick by white guys. So even though he might be some type of pervert, which clearly you could look at the guy, but he, you know, regardless, a lot of times they back him, you know, they back the play. So he could have been a deviant, and I doubt she would care. But what I think happened recently too, I think when Jeff Bezos got divorced there, and his woman went and married a high school guy. And talking about they're gonna find ways to get rid of that money. Yeah, you're gonna spend it, asshole. I think this woman said, you know what? Let me do what she did, and let me get the hell up out of here, right? KW7 says, I've always heard that Yorugu was into weird rituals. I don't know the details though. Yeah, I've always heard that as well. You know, all that witchcraft and stuff that they were doing, a lot of bloodletting and all that stuff they were doing. Yeah. Dorico Cooper Photography says photographers, videographers, barbers, models, writers, editors, and those that can draw storyboards, Nollywood comic strip and films. Right. So this goes back, for those of you who are new here today, this goes back to what we talked about in the past. Man, on the Discord, even right now as it stands, we have enough talented people, much smart and intellectual folks. We can get together and write a script or a treatment of a film idea. And then we got the folks who, like Dorico says, photographers, videographers, etc., who can then put together these films. And let's be real, man. And you see it all the time on YouTube. In fact, these days, I was thinking about getting one of these people on. If you guys, how many of you guys are familiar with comedian CP and Tangerine and Big Jaw and those folks? If you look at what they do is very admirable. They're creating their own lanes, and I'm saying we can do that in the conscious community. Right? We could create the new films that folks need to watch, learn about their traditions and their African culture, right? And Afrocentric thought and theory, right? We can do that. We can do it right on the Discord too. So if you guys are hearing my words, join the Discord, man. Let's get to work. Revolutionary Matron says, why? What is the experiment? What are they trying to observe? Right? I think she's going back to the COVID question, right? The COVID question of it being a Chinese weapon, right? Why are they doing it? So that was, that echoes my question to Dorico Cooper. Why do you think they want everyone to be infected? Right? Kevin Carfoy too says 16 governors, Republicans, will end unemployment by end of June. The business owners are complaining that they cannot find workers. Nobody wants to work for minimum wage anymore. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Carfoy too said this is going to start a problem. Revolutionary Matron says they have to stick with their man because they see that as their only means of survival. Absolutely. Revolutionary Matron, absolutely. That's why they stick, because their men threaten them and tell them, ain't no one gonna take care of y'all like we gonna take care of y'all, even though their men don't care about them. Their men don't care about their women so much they do gay shit. they rather wrestle naked men and dress up a man like a woman and all that. That's really, I mean, go back to Greek and Roman history and culture. They dislike their women. Dorico Cool Photography says, I think they getting divorced to secure half the bag. There's charges coming for BG, Bill Gates, with that that Jeff Epstein situation, or the EpiPen situation. Right? Yeah, they try. Yeah, exactly, Dorico. They're Bezos and all, Bezos' ex-woman, all that. They're trying to get out there and get that money. And I think she looked at Bezos, his ex-wife, and said, you know what, let me get out too. But you make a good point. A large part is because of the shit that went down with Epstein. Rico Cooper Photography says, let's get a Zoom going to put that production team together. You know, let's do that, man. Actually, we don't even have to do a Zoom. We could do it right on the Discord. We could talk to one another and have a conversation and get this thing going. All right? Kevin Kerr agrees. He says, let's do it. Right? Let me get the next topic from Dorico. Man, I really appreciate doing this. It feels so good to talk to you guys. It feels so good to talk to you guys. I really wish I had been doing this, you know, from the beginning. But it's all good. We're doing it now. Let me post Dorico's next prompt. All right, you guys could see it. It says, should we have any morality when investing? For example, should you invest in Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Walmart, Wayfair just because it is making money? Or should we even care as long as we get money? Because we can't affect change anyway. For example, does Johnson & Johnson get a pass because they make other products like Band-Aids? Dorico asks a very good question here, right? I'm going to answer this. I'm going to answer this, you know, for myself personally. You guys, I'd like to hear your answer for the same question. Before I answer directly, I have to say that this reminds me of the conversation we had recently about folks who glorify the drug dealers in the community, saying that they're hustlers, they're businessmen, and they hustle. I'll say this. If you could attach your cart to when these white folks are dealing in transfers of wealth or wealth creation, you could attach your cart. You don't have to like them. You attach your cart, you build your black abundance for you and your family and your community, and you use it to uplift your community. I'm not gonna have a problem with that. Like KW Dawn 7 just said, trading like anything else should be used as a tool. That's how I view it, right? Is TV kind of silly? Sure. But if you're making content that really does good things for the people watching it, hey, it's a tool, right? That's what I would say to that question, right? We know these folks who create this shit are assholes, but if we can hitch our cart to it, gain our little abundance, go back to our families and build them up, I'm not gonna knock it, right? I'm not gonna knock it. So let me go back up in the chat and talk about some stuff that might not be related to this particular prompt. But that's my answer to the prompt. You guys answer in the chat. I'll read those as well. When I go back, I see Dorico says, the reason why they want us to all have COVID is to control the people remotely using 5G bird box, quote unquote bird box. Oh yeah, okay. So that's there's a full stop in between them. My bad. So it's to control the people remotely using 5G. Full stop. Bird Box, that movie that came out on Netflix a little while back, is the illustration of how it could play out. That is why during the lockdown they were installing 5G in the schools. Interesting. So you believe in the 5G thing, but not as the thing that was killing people, right? Some people said it wasn't COVID, it was 5G that was killing people. You believe the 5G works hand in hand with the COVID in terms of control. Revolutionary Matron says Socrates, the gay, had a wife. Her name was Xanthippe, I think that's how it's pronounced, an ill-tempered woman. Yeah, these guys were hens. You know, and you know what hens look for. HCMC, Kevin Care 42 says HCMC penny stock will rise. I have 37,000 shares. ADA or ADA cryptocurrency has been doing very well. Okay, we'll talk about some investment in a second. Daily affirmation by Pauline says, just enjoying my Saturday with you all. Yep, appreciate it. All right, Dorico Cooper Photography. Sorry, Kevin Care 42 says to us, I am amoral. I am not moral, not immoral. Just do what is best for you. We're always shamed for doing what's best for us. Dorico Cooper says, I received that. He said to me, I received that as well. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. You know, in America and the Caribbean, when they had those shoe shine boys and stuff, there's stories of those shoe shine boys listening to the conversations about horse racetrack betting or stock tips or whatever, and they would go after they've finished their job. They'll go to the bookie and buy those stocks, right? Put money on those horses, right? I agree with them. I follow that example, right? I follow that example. So, like I said, stocks was going to come up in a second when Kevin Care talked about the stock tips. Kevin Care put me on to that HCMC that has some promise to it. Dorico Cooper Photography put me on to what's it again? FTMP, I think it is. Penny stocks that some days go up from 0.0002 to 0.002, and you see your money go up kind of nice. It's crazy, right? The last topic from Dorico Cooper Photography is Bitcoin is on sale. Now, Dorico said something interesting on the Discord. How many of you saw Dorico's comment on the Discord? And I'm asking that question because you're losing out to be on the Discord and not to check out the information, the books, the videos, etc. that Dorico Cooper and Kevin Care put up and I put up sometimes. You're missing out completely. And you're missing opportunities to actually make your money work for you. Dorico said that Bitcoin is on sale. Now is the time to buy you a couple of fractions of it. And you could do that on the Robinhood app. Me and Kevin Care 42 are often texting one another about the movement of a certain cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, right? You guys can easily get on that app. This is these white folks shit. But you can get on the app and put your money, put your bread up too. It's hard for any of us to own a whole Bitcoin, as it's around 47,000 right now. At one point it was up to 65,000. Right? It's hard for us to own a whole one of those, but you could own a partial. And Dorico Cooper, if he doesn't mind, could explain. He said on the Discord, if you own $1,000 worth of a Bitcoin, right? 165th of a, 165th, 147th, whatever it is, right? Dorico just said it's 47,600. He said at 1,000, if you have $1,000 in Bitcoin, you could have some decent bread. I forgot how much he said. You could have some decent bread in the near future, just off $1,000 worth of it, right? And I'm saying just, but you guys get what I mean, right? Kevin Carefboy 2 says to Revolutionary Matron, that's why these Karens are so angry and always taking it out on black men. Their men are not giving them that pink pill. The men are too busy chasing the black cigar. We should call this the analogy show, right? Revolutionary Matron says to Kevin Carey, exactly. These guys historically were chasing, it's interesting to study. These guys were chasing knowledge by any means necessary. These guys want to understand how it is to be God. They want to be able to fully control the environment around them. Last week we talked about how these guys control the weather. Right? They want to fully be able to control the environment around them down to, they want to be able to control life and death. They don't have no time for their women. They only show something towards the women when a black dude come, when some black seller comes sniffing around. Right? So Dorico says the speculation is that if you have $1,000 in Bitcoin now, it will be 1 million by 2030. Now I know a lot of y'all are saying, but it's 2021. It's 2021. Hey, that's only 9 years from now, 2030. And the thing you gotta stop thinking about your lifetime, and start thinking about your grandkids' lifetime. Don't worry about, well, if I get this property now, I'm 40 odd years old, 50 years old, I might not, I'll never live to see it, pay it off. No, that's why you prepare your children to take up the baton if something were to happen to you. Noriko Cooper Photography says speculation. Bitcoin will be $322,000 by December. That is amazing. That's like, what's that like? That's like a 5-time, 4 or 5-time, multiple. That's wild. Wo Taddy says, I just bought some now. Beautiful. What'd you buy? Bitcoin? Beautiful. Otadi says Motor T for life. What's Motor T? Right? Drico says smart move. If you're here for knowledge, use the knowledge. 600%. That's 6 times. Okay, you're right. Yeah, 6 times. 600%. Right? Use the knowledge. It doesn't make sense for you to be on the Discord and you're not saying, let me follow what these guys are talking about. Like I said, Kevin Care 42 has put me on to some penny stocks. Dorico Cooper Photography has done so as well. All right. Oh, I love that right there. Revolutionary Matron says, Dr. Clark said, bury the man, continue to plan. I need to really put that on a t-shirt. Bury the man, continue to plan. Dorico likes it as well. That's what we got to be about. Kevin Care says that with inflation, cryptocurrency will rise. While I post the next topic, you guys let me know what you think about Dogecoin. I saw Elon Musk said something that he was working with the Dogecoin developers. And I heard that Coinbase was going to offer it soon. And I also heard that Robinhood was going to start offering wallets for cryptocurrency. You guys, while I find the next prompt, you guys let me know what you think about that. So, where is it? So I think did I go through Daily Affirmations by Pauline's? I don't think so. I think that was the last one I left. Let me see if I could find it. Oh, yes. No, that's not it. Daily Affirmations by Pauline. Did you post topics this week? I think you did. And now I can't find it. Did you post topics for this week? And do you remember which channel you posted it under? Because now I can't find it. While I wait for Daily Affirmations to answer that question, after Kevin Kerr said to Dorico Photography, with the way the U.S. economy is going and inflation, crypto will rise, Dorico says exactly, if not from just the market cap alone. Kevin Kerr 42 says, look what happened with the Colonial Pipeline. The Eastern European hackers demanded 5 million in crypto. Oh, was it in crypto? I saw they got 5 million. I didn't realize they got it in crypto. Wow. I didn't realize they got it in crypto. Okay. Dorico Cooper Photography says cryptocurrency adoption is only about 2%. That's amazing. I didn't realize it was that low. But that's amazing. And that's why people are pushing Elon Musk and Tesla and all them to accept Dogecoin, because putting the story together, if it's more accepted as a payment option, its price will start to go higher because more people will buy into it. You know, am I understanding that correctly? Daily Affirmations by Point says, yes, I posted. I don't remember where you posted it. Damn. I saw your last week's post. Let me go to off topics. Let's see if it's there. I don't see you on off topics. General, no. Do you know where you posted it? Daily Affirmations by Pauline. I don't want to ignore your contribution whatsoever. Do you know where you posted it? Dorico says it only takes 10% adoption to hit critical mass. Interesting. Kevin Kerr says, I predict something. We will all be financially stable by this time next year. That's a good prediction. That's a good prediction. Oh, you DM'd it to me. Daily Affirmation by Pauline. I'm sorry. Let me go back and check this out. Oh, you DM'd it to me. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me get it. So the first one is going to be about labor. And again, I thank you all for taking the time out, having the thought to post topics for us to discuss. And, you know, I really do appreciate it. I thank you for keeping me in mind. If you haven't done it before, you guys can also do it. Anyone can do it. Like I said, on the Discord now, on the podcast episodes, you can find the channel that says Shoot the Breeze topics. So in the future, you could post it there, and I will get it from there. Dorico Cooper probably says, I received that prediction. So do I. I received it as well. Podcast full of millionaires, Dorico. I like it. Yeah, let's have a Discord full of millionaires too. Right? Join the Discord today. So Daily Affirmation by Pauline, first comment was on labor. Thoughts on real reason businesses are unable to get employees to return to work. I think Kevin Kerr might have touched on this earlier. You know, first law of life is self-preservation. And a lot of folks aren't putting themselves out there for nothing. They aren't putting themselves out there for nothing. The other thing that's happening too, funny story actually, folks are creating their own businesses. Folks are going the entrepreneur direction. The pandemic created the mindset of you could do stuff online and make money. Speaking of which, a young lady I know from Facebook is now on OnlyFans, and it was so shocking. But folks are out here trying to make that bread. And if you ain't got to go into some man's job, work a 9 to 5, and this fucker could tell you when to stand, when to sit, right? Folks are turning away from that. Let me see what the folks in the chat room have said. Wo Toddy says you inspect what you expect. Wo Toddy, what do you mean by that? You inspect what you expect. Wo Toddy says Dorico is right? Podcast full of millionaires. Let that money work. Revolutionary Matron says I received it. Won't he do it? Let me take a sip of this strong drink here and say, won't he do it though? Right? Kevin K42 says the problem of the world is too many old people running it. That's a world problem. That's a historic problem. The quote unquote elders have a lot to say, and I'm not knocking elders, but there's a time for you to step your elderly ass to the side. Wotadi says this checks that we received. Somehow we have to pay it back. You pay it forward. Let's say you receive your abundance today. You pay it forward by helping the generations to come gain their abundance. And also, when you gain abundance really to leave it for the next generation. Too many folks tend to be about abundance, but then they want to spend up the abundance when they get old. No, your job as a black person, your job, just like the white people used to do before, your job is to take that sacrifice. As Revolutionary Matron says, being old and being wise are different. Right? One of the things black folks have to stop doing, as a matter of fact, I've talked about this a long time ago on the show. Black folks have, we mentioned Bill Gates, and he ties into what I'm about to say. Black folks have this mindset of, if I get my mama and them out the projects, or if I get my mama and them out the islands, or off the continent to the States or something like that, I did my job, I'm good. Black folks have this mentality, if I make $100 million playing basketball or something, I'm good. But these European folks don't take their foot off the gas. We talked about Bill Gates earlier. Bill Gates is still pushing some bullshit Windows operating systems. He ain't falling off of that. But we have this thing of, well, we made a certain amount, we could stop now. And I like what Dorico Cooper just said in the chat room. When you think about stuff, you think about 7 generations minimum. I like that number. That's kind of a biblical number too, right? A prophetic number, as some would say, right? I tend to think in 3s. I tend to think at least start thinking about your grandchildren or their children. right? But I'm not mad at 7 generations minimum either. Bill Gates and them, Warren Buffett and them, his old ass, he has enough money out there for like 10 generations of his family. And I know he claimed he was going to give it to a church or some shit like that. I don't know how true that is, but, right? Like Jericho Cooper Photography says, olders and elders are 2 different things. That goes with what Revolutionary Matron said earlier. Wotadi says, now it's time for new millionaires. Absolutely. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, I heard that people are leaving 9-to-5 jobs because they're being required to report back into the office, and they aren't having it. Too many rules, snitches, and inability to be their true selves. Absolutely. Right? Jericho Cooper Photography says, Urugu thinks, how can I rule for 10 centuries? Like we talked about in, I think it was Tuesday's episode, for those of you who weren't there or who haven't heard it yet, right? These guys are talking about ruling some shit for the next 1,000 years, right? Which is what Jericho said, 10 centuries, right? Meanwhile, y'all thinking about your lifetime. Y'all thinking about, oh, you saved up all this money, now I'm 65, I retired. It's time for me to spend my money now. Shit now. No. No. It's time for you to enrich the next generation or two. Wotai says 777. Rico Cooper Photography says China is producing $1 billionaire every 17 minutes. Is that right? China is producing $1 billionaire every 17 minutes. What's Africa producing as far as billionaires? Like, what's the rate for that? $1 billionaire every 17 minutes. That's wild. That's wild. But how are these billionaires becoming billionaires, by the way? If you know, let me know that too, Derico. Let's move on to the next topic. The next topic is about conflict. I said we were going to talk about this a little later in the show, and here we are. Let's talk about conflict. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, as for conflict, Israel and Palestine are fighting. Is there an underlying reason? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. The reason, in my humble opinion, the underlying reason is land. You gotta understand something. Land is freedom. Write that down. Land equals freedom. The only place where land doesn't equal freedom is in America for the population within its nation, for black folks. Historically, black folks will own land in America, and America, the government will come and take the shit. Eminent domain. Well, we got to build a park, and here's the place to build our park, so y'all got to build. Right? But almost anywhere you are, land is freedom. The Palestinians, if you look at the map of how much land was Palestine before 1948, and you look at the map now, right? It is crazy. It is crazy to see how much land Israel has come in and taken from the Palestinians. So that's the underlying conflict, is land. And remember, as I said a couple of episodes back, a lot of people say it's Uganda, but actually it was Kenya, where these Jews, these Israelis, are wanting to set up their Holy Land. But the heat was too much for them. These sissies couldn't take the heat. Plus, they wanted to be closer to an authentic, or quote-unquote authentic spot for their religion. Rico Cooper Photography says real estate, cryptocurrencies, e-commerce, manufacturing. That's how the Chinese make these billionaires every 17 minutes. Revolutionary Matron says China makes everything. Literally everything. As a startup, all my supplies have to come from there. People lie and say they make things, but they just pay China to put their label on a product. Revolutionary Matron, I understand exactly where you're coming from. If I wanted to make a t-shirt line, chances are I'm going to work through China. If I wanted to put out a photo album book, chances are I got to work through China. Right? Daily Affirmation by Pauline says she saw that map that I'm talking about of the incursion, the occupation by Israel. Right? It's a land grab. And they grab the land that quote unquote validates their bullshit religion. Right? KW Don 7 says Urugu won't be around in 500 years. The hegemonic system of control is too fragile. That's where they are lashing out now. KW Don 7, if you don't mind, let us know what you think would be the death blow in 500 years. What do you think will happen? Will it just be they die out, which is kind of passive as far as black nationhood, nation building, black power goes? Right? Are they just going to die out, or are we going to play a part in it? Right? KW Dunn also says Israel has basically chiseled the Palestine off the map. Right? Rico Cooper Photography says research, contract, manufacturing. Oh yeah, I've done that before, you know. I've looked into contract manufacturing before when I was in business school. Right? A lot of you know I have degrees in biology, but I also have a degree in business as well. Right? And so what China does is outsource a lot of products manufacturing. Hey, Joni Rosenthal. I almost said Joni Mitchell. Yes, Joni Rosenthal is here. She kind of disappeared. She deleted her message, but I saw it, and I agree with you, Joni. I mean, I don't really care about these folks. I really don't care about these folks. Right? Drigo Cooper Photography says it is the equivalent of California being Palestine before 1947 being reduced to chain of islands. Yes. Right? Joni Rosenthal, I'd like to see you and Revolutionary Matron and all the other females on the Discord. I actually created a sisters only section that I haven't unveiled yet, but I really would like to see you guys interact more on the Discord. I think our women need safe spaces to have discussions and strategize, themselves. And I have a space on the Discord, but I don't see a lot of women, female participants, and I would like to see more of you on a regular, so I could introduce you to that area, and it's just for you guys to go and build, really. Joni said, why do we care about the Israel and Palestine conflict? Again, I don't personally, but I know a lot of black folks tend to take on the suffering of other folks, and I don't. Right? Dorico Cooper Photography says, we don't, just commenting on the land grab. Yeah, I mean, that's just a historical fact. Historical fact is they went and they grabbed that land, and they, if they weren't so soft, they would have grabbed a lot of African land too. Right? Next topic from Daily Affirmations by Pauline is DNA. Is DNA. Bear with me a second here. DNA. All right, so the next prompt has a plus sign, and they all have plus signs. DNA, pros and cons of submitting African DNA for analysis. Opinion on Henry Gates' Finding Your Roots program. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of Henry Gates. I saw some things myself. I also read some things from Dr. John Henry Clark about Henry Gates. Skip the Gates truth. Remember, Henry Gates locked himself out of his home and was trying to climb through a window, and some white neighbors called the cops and they came and they roughed him up. Do you guys remember that? When Skip the Truth Gates got roughed up, you know, Dr. John Henry Clark called him that. Skip the Truth Gates. Henry Skip the Truth Gates, right? So yeah, so I'm not a big fan of his, and so I look at pretty much anything he does, I look at skeptically, to be honest. I think it's good to track your heritage. The problem I have is that those DNA analysis companies tend to work with the feds. And they have no problems turning over your DNA to the feds. And guess what? The feds have a 98 or something percent conviction rate. I don't want a company having my DNA that they could sprinkle like crack on some crime scene or some shit, and now the feds have me. I'm not interested in that. This is why I think and I hope that it is African owned. There's AfricanAncestry.com. I hope that's not some white grifter, right? Just grifting off of blackness and calling it Africa. You know, I hope it's not some Russian to, you know, own a company that's called African Ancestry. Oh, KW7 just said, I believe that African Ancestry is black owned by Rick Kittles. The other ones are white controlled. To go back up to some other comments, KW7 said, I believe that the youth of Africa won't be going along to get along. I think at the turn of the century, Urugu won't be able to hold the continent. Okay, that's what I like to hear. I don't want to be left to some chance, to the cosmos, where we have to wait for these guys to die out down to a certain number before we could attain, you know, any kind of self-determination. Revolutionary Matron says, I think it's BS. He said it was BS. What's BS again? What are you referring to, Revolutionary Matron? Rico Cooper Photography says DNA. They are trying to destroy you, especially without harming themselves. Kevin K42 says Africa has the youngest population under 30. You know, that is true. But one of the things, I think the last paper I read, if I'm not mistaken in my understanding, I think one of the reasons why the population is so young, there's a lot of HIV/AIDS that has killed off a lot of folks above 30. And that's something we really got to take into stock. You see, Africa's health, wealth, and Africa's relationships, we have to become more involved in that, right? Revolutionary Matron says he's married to your adversary. I think Skip Gates is married to a pink one, huh? Derico Cooper Photography says cloning. Yes, that's the other thing. I don't like these white companies having my, you know, the fundamental building blocks of me and my people. It's my DNA. I don't want you to have that, right? Next is KW7. Okay, sorry, Joni Rosenthal says the Caribbean islands also has a very young population. What's the average population of the Caribbean now? Kevin Care42 says, to me, familial DNA. That's how they were able to catch, I think, the Gateway Killer. Yes, that's how they got the Gateway Killer. They had his brother's DNA or some shit, and they said, wait a minute. Let's check this little DNA we found that we can't trace to anybody. Let's see if the ancestry groups, the ancestry companies that take DNA from people, let's see if they have any matches, and they found a brother. Revolutionary Matron says, even if it is, we cannot afford the risk of trust. Because of the delay between when I say something, when y'all hear it, and when you respond, sometimes your comments, sometimes I'm not able to put them, fit them correctly. If you give a little bit more information, then I'll know exactly what you're referring to. Kevin Care42 says all those companies own the copyright on your DNA. Nah, I'm good on that. Oh, she was referring to the DNA and Henry Louis Gates. Okay. Kevin Care42 says, look at how the 2018 French Africa United soccer team destroyed the traditional superpowers. Johnny Rosenthal says, if you're really going to be serious about power, continent of Africa has to do a lot of self-reflection with regards to religion and tribalism. Speaking of religion and tribalism, I added everyone on the Discord. You guys on the Discord, did you see that video? I know I posted it earlier today, so you probably didn't have time to see all of it. But did you guys see it at least? See the post about the big debate on the Abrahamic religions, right? I think the question was, do Abrahamic religions compromise African liberation? Now, funny enough, the folks who put that on, they did something interesting that I kind of don't respect, to be honest. But that whole conversation was really started by Onitase from the pro-black perspective. When they put together their panel, did they include Onitase from the pro-black perspective? Nah. I don't like that. Onitase is the host of the pro-black perspective here on KWAZ radio, right? And it would be good for Onitase, for himself personally, and for the brand, for the podcast network that we're all a part of, right, to really be out there, especially when he created the conversation. They didn't include it. But you guys check out that video, and I'd like you guys to comment. I know Onitase commented already. I'd like you guys to comment on it. What did you think about the conversation? I'll say this about it. It's a damn shame to see black folks so, what's the word? So much in bondage by these Abrahamic religions that they almost want to fight you. They almost want to break down in tears over their belief system. And in the abundance of water and the abundance of information in this day and age, they still want to hold on to their belief. In fact, I saw some folks calling it, what do they call it again? Elitism. To say that Abrahamic religions are an impediment or do compromise African religion, right? Johnny Rosenthal says yes. So I guess she saw it. Just to go back up for a second, Dorico Cooper Photography says melanin is $511 per gram. If you're black, you're worth $40 billion. Sorry, $40 million just in melanin. Dorico Cooper Photography says we are the money, the first bonds of the U.S. Yes. Dorico says a black man with 3 years of field training was worth as much as a house, and Urugu could borrow from that equity to buy more property and assets. Revolutionary Matron says the African American is a created personality to serve white people. Whoa. Be careful now. That ADOS FBA wagon will come and get you now. Or they'll try. They never really get anybody, but they try. Yeah, I mean, African Americans, let's keep it all the way real. They were here to serve. They were kidnapped and brought here to serve. It went from the plantation, then it became entertainment industry, sports, and all that stuff. Even your death that's been shown on, you know, passed around in videos on social media, that's there to entertain white folks. KW7 says something that's true. He said the Abrahamic religion discussion had degraded into a debate from the parts I saw. Yeah. They kept talking about it not being a debate, being a discussion, but some folks were so endeared and indebted and bonded by their religion that they couldn't help but debate. And that's just the reality of it. And by the way, this is why you don't see me get involved in these discussions. Someone asked me one time, I think it wasn't this discussion, it was something else. They're like, well, how come they didn't ask you to be a part of it? And I'm not doing this to be a part of that, you know, to be a part of that stuff. You know, I'm in my little corner doing what I do, and I'm cool with that. You feel me? And I'm really not into debating. I don't feel debating does anything for anyone, or does very little. Right? Let's go to the next prompt. The next prompt is on education. Again, this is from Daily Affirmations by Pauline, who was the first winner of the t-shirt giveaway. Right? By the way, you guys let me know who should be tonight's recipient of the t-shirt giveaway. I don't do it every week. I'm not going to do it every week. But who should be tonight's recipient? Who had the better prompts that I've posted? Right? Who's had the better prompts? Who you think should be in the discussion for the winner of the giveaway? We already have Daily Affirmations by Pauline, who should be getting her t-shirt in a week or two. Who else do you think tonight should be included? The next prompt that Daily Affirmations had was on education. Forgiveness of loans by government since universities and financial institutions charge exorbitant fees. All right? Forgiveness of loans by government since universities and financial institutions charge exorbitant fees. I'm gonna let you guys post your comments on that, and I'll be back on the other side after this commercial break.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Make sure you also check out the Queen's Council podcast on KWAZ Radio. Also, I want to say, if you can, if you're willing, if you're able to, two things. Make sure you follow KWAZ Radio on YouTube as well. And also, there's a Cash App there as well. Thanks to you guys who donated recently. I appreciate you. Make sure you guys also, if you can, donate to the Cash App. The proceeds are used really to develop the podcast more. Right now, I'm trying to get the podcast back on the apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So right now, whatever donations we receive will go towards another year of getting the podcast back on the apps again. So you guys donate to that if you can. KW Don 7 says Signature TV is a den of information junkies and circular arguments. I agree. Kevin Care 42 says, give it to Dorico Cooper Photography. Okay, so Kevin Care has put in Dorico as a t-shirt giveaway winner for tonight. Okay. Dorico Cooper Photography says, if they're going to forgive loans, do it for black folks only. Dorico, do you see that as a form of reparations? Do you see that as a form of reparations? Joni Rosenthal says, everything is a debate with black folks. Can we just say arrogance and ego is a huge issue in the black community? Absolutely. That's why I don't get into debates. If you ask me to present on a topic, I will gladly present on a topic. But to do debates, I don't see it just doesn't resonate with me. You guys were here, a lot of you were here when the Pro-Black Perspective and I had a crossover episode and we discussed the East African Federation. Great discussion, including, you know, the points being made in the chat room that night. Right? Great discussion. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says Dorico Cooper. I guess she's referring to the t-shirt giveaway. Just to go back up, KWAZ Radio says follow us on YouTube too. Dorico says, I'm just saying this country has never done anything for us exclusively. He also says, however, they do everything to exclude us exclusively. Johnny Rosenthal says, now there a non-physical civil war between the black man and black woman pushed on by the media. Dorico says that divide is created by white media. I think I agree with you guys, it's created in white media. I also see that a lot of our black men and women pick it up. I don't know if you guys saw this. I posted it on the Discord on the Conscious videos. Umar Johnson had a conversation with Mark Lamont Hill. And it ended up going exactly where I figured, being that Mark Lamont Hill was involved. Right? It ended up going exactly where I thought it would go. Mark Lamont Hill is one of these black folks who is intersectional. You know, he'll talk about the Palestinian problem more than he talks about the black one. For example, he'll talk about trans issues more than black folks' issues. Let's be real about that. That's what he does. Right? And so he took Umar down that road the other day. So I posted that on there. But the reason why I bring it up is because he kind of challenged Umar about the black male versus black female, I guess, beef that's out there. And he kind of accused Umar of saying something that Umar actually did say. Umar kind of lied about not saying it. But the reality of it is the media pushes that. The media pushes the narrative that more black men are misogynist and white women. They push the idea of the comfortability with white men being dominant over black women and all that kind of stuff. So we got to learn how to not fall for the bullshit, right? Dorico says it would be a reparations, but it would only be for reparations if they did it for us only. I hear you. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says to Johnny Rosenthal, so true, always a debate. Kevin Care says, to me, I just saw that the International Arts Festival at Commodore Barry Park is back this year. Is that right? What's the date on that? That's in June sometime, or July, is it? June or July? Let me know when that is. Revolutionary Matron says, education without resource infrastructure will only lead to our end. That's an interesting statement. Education without resource infrastructure will only lead to our end. I mean, that might be the first part of your statement. But I believe, okay, the next part of your statement was we have to learn how to live and love one another. I agree, but even live and love, right? If you don't have the resource infrastructure, where are you going to end up? I believe the education is the key. I believe in it, the education is supposed to teach us how to live with and love one another. I believe the education is supposed to teach us that as well. And I believe the education is supposed to utilize the biggest and the best resource that the black community has. You know what that is? Black people. We have the biggest and best resource that our community has. And so the education has to be towards building that resource up. Kevin Care 42 says the Arts Festival is July 2nd to 4th. Yeah, I know it was either around Juneteenth or around American independence, right? KW7 says Lamont Hill believes that you can be born to engage in a death style. I am out on him. I'm out on the dude too. I'm good on that dude, right? Tarico Cooper Photography says they should pay us reparations like stimulus checks for blacks only. Demand for it, pool it, and buy cryptocurrencies and tangible assets. Then make ABS, you know who the ABS are, and INES, you know who that is too, pay reparations next. Right? For us, by us, African-centered. I get it. Kevin Care says we get from these institutions, all we get from these institutions is an education, some mixed up, jumbled up bullshit, right? Some mixed up, jumbled up bullshit. That was the last prompt I was given for Saturday night, Shoot the Breeze. It was on education, right? Revolutionary Matron said, this is why I want to support the Pan-African centered educational program that you are developing. The educational system is hurting us, absolutely hurting us. And here's the thing that almost brings me to mental tears. This problem Carter G. Woodson exposed like 100 years ago. What are we doing? So let me just say something about the educational program. We want it to be ultimately Pan-African centered. I don't think there's an African-centered curriculum out there that's actually Pan-African, right? I want the readings. I want the languages that we study, the readings that we do. I want it to be from all over the continent, all over the African diaspora. When we talk history, everyone should know what happened in the Congo. Everyone should know what happened in Haiti. Everyone should know what happened in Guyana. Everyone should know what happened to Black Brits. By the way, there was I think it was Amazon that had a little mini series about the Black Brits back in the 60s and 70s and the Black Power movements out there. We should all know about that, right? Everyone should know what's going on. Everyone should know what's going on with our brothers and sisters historically in Canada, you know, a part of North America, right? Let's take the knowledge of mathematics, where I know David Walker has a book that I have here that will be worthwhile in creating a science curriculum, particularly math curriculum for our children. Everyone should be willing to play a role. Either you're playing a role in the content or you're playing a role in the creation, the finished product. I'd like to see everyone actively ask, how can I get down? Barbers included too. How can I get down? Right? We need to understand that the problems we face in North America are the problems we face in the continent, in the Caribbean, worldwide. You guys know a couple months ago I did this episode talking about I think Johnny Rosenthal was there that night too. I talked about the Monroe Doctrine in Haiti. And in reading that paper, a lot of us learned of the waterways, the currents that these folks use to send their ships to and from Europe and the continent and the Mediterranean, or those areas. And how the Caribbean, for example, and the south of the U.S. and South and Central America is so important to the upkeep of this U.S. Country that's oppressing everybody. If we start to get that information out to our people, to our children in these different localities, we can actually change the way the leadership operates in these countries. In the chat room, KW Dawn 7 says, I believe that the current consumption habits of Africans in America is not conducive for reparations. As it stands now, reparations would be a slush fund for the dominant society. That's absolutely true. I've talked about that in the past too. You give, the way things are constructed with Black society in America, I'm sorry to say it, but Black society in America will spend that money right back to European society in America, right? And then here's the diabolical part of it. I'm surprised Europeans haven't pulled this shit off already. Because here's the diabolical part of it. After they've given you this money that you spend right back with them, you know you have no more excuses with these folks. When their police and stuff kill your children, you know there's no more excuses. You know you can't talk about racism and all that shit. That's done with. They will pay you to silence you on the fact. You can't talk about white supremacy anymore. White hegemony. They've paid you. Now shut your ass and take this suffering that you know they're going to crank up on you once you've taken that money, that blood money, and spent it back, right back with them. Johnny Rosenthal says, I'm from Haiti, or Haiti. I know where you're from. I know. Right? KW 7 says, Urugu would design a reparations escalade. Now that's funny as hell. That is so funny, but so true at the same time. These motherfuckers will have reparation sales around you guys getting that money. Now, some folks, of course, will be good with the money. They'll invest it. They'll do whatever. They'll build something for the future generation. But the mass majority, doubtful. Because the education is messed up. Instead of Black folks take that money and say to me, invest in the continent in a way where I could make money back, but at the same time uplift the continent, they won't do it. Revolutionary Matron says we will buy their garbage for twice the price. Then they will change the rules to favor it. Absolutely. Be careful what you ask for without being ready for it. Dorico says, when is the meeting on the Discord for the production team? I'm ready. Let's produce some content. I got some ideas. Well, Dorico, I tell you what. Let's me and you talk about it first, and then we'll set it up. Because we're on the Discord. Whoever's on the Discord will know when the meeting is happening, because I'll send out a blast to everyone, right? And we'll get everyone on board. That's why it's important for you, right? It's important for you guys to be on the Discord. All right. Revolutionary Matron, I'm changing. So most people, when they join the Discord, they join as a podcast fan. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add you to the writing team. And with that comes certain privileges, you'll see, for being on the writing team. Hit me up and let me know. Hit me up and let me know what you want to work on, what aspect you like to work on with it. Dorico Cooper Photography says, what's going on in Haiti right now? And Johnny Rosenthal has crying laughter. I'm guessing that's going to mean more of the same is going on. Like, for example, when we talked about the Monroe Doctrine in Haiti, there was actually stuff going on in Haiti at the time, where a lot of Haiti's inhabitants were saying, look into the Monroe Doctrine, which is why I did the show. And funny enough, all that talk has just gone right away. You haven't heard anything. And this is why you have to support black media. Because even I haven't talked about it, but in a funny way, had I been, if I could focus on bringing the news and bringing information, I would be able to stay on top of what's going on in Haiti. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, I believe Dr. Paul McComb has developed a similar curriculum. I'm not familiar with Paul McComb, but I'll definitely look up Paul McComb. Thanks for that information. All right. Thanks. But hold on a second. Is Paul McComb a white guy? Is that what I'm saying? Is Paul McComb a white guy? Listen, we don't accept any European curriculum. KW7 says, I would take those funds and repatriate to the continent. You still have people claiming to be American Indians. Dorico says he'll call me after the broadcast. Okay, cool. KW7 says there are different methods for streaming, like Quelly TV, Tubi, and Black Junction TV. Absolutely. That's why I talked about this in the past. You know, if we start writing scripts and getting folks to film and act and stuff like that, we have outlets. We have outlets to put, you know, these productions. Revolutionary Matron says something right here that I say all the time. They keep us so busy trying to survive that we cannot focus on thinking. Right? Daily Affirmation says that McComb is of Black Haitian descent, I believe. Okay. When I did a quick Google search, all I saw was a white boy just now. You know, we don't want that. We don't want that at all. All right. Kevin Kerr says to me also a couple of weeks ago, volcano erupted in St. Vincent. Nothing on the LIVESTREAM news. You know what's funny about that? You definitely didn't hear anything about that in the US, but at least to its credit, BBC America talked about it a bit. And Caribbean folks on Twitter kept it going. In fact, I saw something about it up to yesterday. Right? This is what we need. This is why we need black media. And this is why you gotta support black media when you have the opportunity to. Right? And again, not the lame black voices, the ones who are on some bullshit, just begging for money and cracking jokes. I'm talking about dudes who really care about our folks and want to get all the information out there about our people. Right? Joni Rosenthal says, what is going on to Haiti is our fault. We let the wolf in the house. Dorico Cooper says, I'm down to be a foreign correspondent in Haiti. That's cool. KW7 says, Marcus Klein has the Freedom Home Academy in Chicago. Barudi has a school in Atlanta. So when I was doing my research that informed if I wanted to work on a curriculum, the thing that I noticed was the curriculums weren't really fleshed out. They were too vague. And they might have been Pan-African in terms of readings, like you might have read something from a Caribbean scholar, say Garvey, or something like that, but very little from the continent itself. As a matter of fact, if you peep what's going on, most of what is discussed from a Pan-African perspective in the West comes from Caribbean scholars, right? If you peep it, a lot of it comes from Caribbean scholars. But we want to start getting connections to and with folks in the continent, on the continent, right? Kevin Kerr says we are too heavily invested in Muzungu media. This stops now. Jericho Cooper Photography says, let's get this news and inform our own people. That's absolutely correct. And by the way, let me say this too. If you, let me be clear, because I'm speaking for someone else, but if you are Pan-African, you have a voice, you have a mind, and you have something to say along the lines of Pan-Africanism, you want to talk about what's going on in the diaspora, you too can be a podcaster on KWAZ Radio. Of course, we don't do the whole, Abrahamic religion thing, but if you have something to say, right, you have information and viewpoints you want to convey to people, by all means, you can contact KWAZ Radio, and you could be a podcaster as well. We can be tuned into you on nights, of course, when I'm not online, right? Revolutionary Matron says they're always trying to establish a gatekeeper class. This always works against our interests. And to add to that, Revolutionary Matron, the gatekeepers, unlike what I see a lot of folks say, the gatekeepers are not other black folks. The gatekeepers are not continental Africans, they're not Caribbean Africans, they're not UK Africans, they're not Canadian Africans, South American Africans, right? It's these other groups. I was thinking about this today, about how so many of these Hispanic groups think of themselves as white. You get like a Fat Joe type Puerto Rican out here, they think they're white. You go and look at their passport. Or look at their entry on the census. They're white folks. And those are the guys who they try to prop up as the gatekeeper. Those are the real gatekeepers for white society. All right. Seems there's no more comments, and I have no more prompts for tonight. That's a 2-hour show, so we're good. I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Again, you may shoot the breeze a hit as far as I'm concerned. If you haven't already, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified of when I'm on again. I appreciate everyone who's been here. Make sure you check out the other shows on KWAZ Radio, Harsh Reality Podcast, Queen's Council, and the Pro-Black Perspective. Okay? Please make sure to check out those shows as well. And if you want to, I'll be on the Discord. I'm gonna jump on the voice channel. If you guys want to jump on the voice channel, you can. Okay, but thank you. I see Kevin Kerr says great show as usual. Life with Nelly has been quiet, but she says good night to everyone. What another great episode. NYC Sports Archive says thank you. While I'm at it, let me thank everyone who was here. NYC Sports Archives, Life with Nelly, Kevin Kerr 42, Revolutionary Matron, Jericho Cooper Photography, KW Don 7, Daily Affirmations by Pauline. Who else was here? Joni Rosenthal was here. Who else? I know there's someone else who was new tonight who was here. Kevin Kerr 42, NYC Beauties. Who else? Who was the new person here tonight? Damn, Wo Toddy. Thank you, Wo Toddy, for being here tonight and actually speaking in the comment section. Much appreciated. I like it when folks come and you actually participate with all of us. We're a family here. Come in and talk to us in the chat forum. It's all good. Revolutionary Matron says, great show. Thanks for being here live with us. Joni Rosenthal says, when will you have a call-in night? That's a great question. As you guys see, there's a phone number in the top left-hand corner. I've been wanting to do it for a minute, but I only want to do it if I know that folks are going to call in. If you would call in to the show live on air, type 1 in the chat room. Let me get this before I go. Let me see how many of you here live tonight would call into the show, right? On the phone line that's provided up top there, and I might change it actually in the future. We'll see. Who would call in to the show? The t-shirt winner, Dorico Cooper Photography, will win the t-shirt tonight. Dorico, let me know behind the scenes in a DM on the Discord what size t-shirt you wear. I'll get that over to you in the next week or 2 or 3. Kevin Kerr says he will call in. NYC Beauty says they would call in. Revolutionary Matron says they'll call in. NYC Sports Archives would call in. Funny enough, the person who asked me when there'll be a call-in show is not responding to the question. Black Excellence said they'll call in, so that's a good number of you who say you'll call in. All right, so Dorico, hit me up with your information on t-shirt size. I'll get that to you in the next week or 2 or 3. Thanks to everyone who was here tonight. Joni still hasn't answered. Daily Affirmation by Pauline said she would. That's great. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, but I will be jumping in the voice channel on the Discord right now. Life for Nelly said she'll call in. So thanks everyone. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.